What's going on, everyone? This is Noah from Spanky the Sparky. Today we have a very special guest, Mr. Rob Wilson, an organizer out of IBEW 611 in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Rob, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good as well. To begin with, though, prior to all this, you mentioned you're a third generation IBEW wireman and have been in the trades for over 20 years. What
Yeah.
did growing up around the union teach you about the value of brotherhood, and how has that shaped the way you approach your role today as an organizer?
Just growing up, I didn't know what my dad always did at first. I just knew he was a journeyman wireman, and
Yeah,
I knew he worked construction. I didn't know too much, but we would go to the hall. My dad was involved in a lot of the stuff going on. Like we'd always go to all the barbecues. We'd go to all the different things. They had a few rallies that we went to, so it definitely kind of helped me. and
yeah.
At a certain point, I wasn't sure I was going to go into construction. I thought I was going to go the college route. I think my dad wanted me to go the college route, but same thing that happened with him.
Yeah.
He ended up getting into the trades. I had a family young, so it kind of helped me to understand that like workers' rights and just what you should be owed, right? What or 8 for 8, 10 for 10, that kind of thing. So I always saw my dad working a lot, so kind of
Yeah.
put some work ethic.
Curiosity, was he also based out of local 611?
Yeah, yeah. My dad and my grandfather were both 611
Very cool.
members.
That's very cool. You started your apprenticeship back in December of 20 or 2005. Looking back, what were the biggest differences between coming up through the apprenticeship than than versus what new apprentices are walking into today in local 611?
So 611, we've had a boom with just data centers, a lot of jobs coming up here in New Mexico. So when I got in, we were kind of known as like a suitcase local on the inside. So
Yeah.
a lot of the journeymen, they worked out of town. They were travelers, booked two guys everywhere, and there was only a few places. We have our national labs here, and that was a big part of the sustainable work. And we would have just a big job, and then everybody would go back. And with the very first metadata center, it started. People started staying home more, and it actually started with there's a site down in Eunice, uranium enrichment facility that was one
Oh,
of the big ones, and it just kept carrying on and on and on. And now we're looking at more data centers, um, just a lot of different jobs that are coming to New Mexico. So the apprentices now, they don't have to travel as much. They're
that's nice.
mostly based out of Albuquerque, but there are some areas where they can stay, and they're not having to go all over. But also, there's a steady amount of work for the most part.
611 covers inside, outside, and utility work across almost the entire state of New Mexico and even into parts of Arizona and the Navajo Nation. How does that wide jurisdiction change the way you approach organizing and representing workers compared to a smaller, more centralized local? It's kind
So
of unique with the Navajo aspect to me, but how
yeah,
is that?
yeah. So we actually up in Farmington, it kind of borders the Navajo Nation. We have a full-time rep and organizer. He does both, but he stays up there with that in that area, and he actually organizes and visits all the jobs out there. So he'll go on to the Navajo Nation. We were actually out in Chinle yesterday doing a Skills USA competition,
Oh,
helping him out with that. So
that's
when he
awesome.
needs help, yeah, when he needs help, we go from the main office up that way, help him out. But down in Carlsbad, we have some contractors down on the south part of the state, and if they need help getting guys or just with anything going on, we kind of go down there. We have a rep that travels down there quite a bit to talk to those guys and deal. We do some city of Carlsbad. There's a few other jobs down there.
That's
We have
awesome.
two reps that stay down south that handle a lot of the other government stuff that's going on down there. So
That's awesome. Out of curiosity, and you might not know this off the top of your head, but at least in your area or within your jurisdiction, what percentage of work is union compared to non-union?
So we're not at a super high. I think we're close to, I want to say 30% is our market share out here, which isn't bad, but a lot
No.
of it is our government work. It's our these bigger jobs. We do a lot of the bigger jobs. Commercial, we're not doing super strong in. We do have contractors that do the commercial work, but
Hmm.
it's just not really something that we're just kind of handling ourselves. So
Is I guess does your local is there a lot of residential to your guys' local?
No, we
Nope.
are almost non-existent in the residential now. We've been
Residential.
looking at it and trying to come up. We used to be pretty heavy in there, and like other locals, we've looked at it. That's
Yeah.
something. I mean, that's a feeder program right into commercial, and hopefully one
Yeah.
day we get back into it. But it's so hard to compete right now for our
That's fair.
contractors to compete to do that. So.
That makes sense. That's the same way here in Ohio, so I completely
Yeah.
get it.
Actually, yeah, and Akron has a great program. We've talked to them a little bit with their residential.
Oh,
There's another
nice.
one in Ohio. Yeah, they're the one of the few people that are kind of still going in
I I
residential.
also I also think local. I think it's 252 in Ann Arbor, Michigan, has a residential
Oh, okay,
program. So that's
nice.
kind of cool. Um, as an organizer, you're on the front lines bringing non-union electricians into the IBEW. What was the biggest misconceptions you hear from non-union workers in your area, and how do you break through to them and show them the real value of joining? Because that's actually
There's
that's personally for me. I started out non-union before I guess joining the union and then getting into the apprenticeship and so forth. So I had a lot of misconceptions myself. But how do you go about that?
So we come out and one of the biggest things is just talking to the guys. You realize everybody's just people. They're just trying to make ends meet, kind of take care of their families. So going out there and talking to these guys, a lot of them they only hear rumors from older guys
That's true.
about the union, or a lot of them don't even know about it. So when we go out, we talk to these guys, and what I like to start talking to them is just things that they've heard, right? And
Yeah.
a lot of the bad rap for the unions came from like the '80s, the white ticket area, letting guys in and then kind of kicking them out, and really not being able to get into a union unless you knew somebody, and that was a long time ago, and that was in the past. So
Yeah.
they just know that part, right? And those are the older timers telling them that. So another a thing that non-union guys are hearing here in my jurisdiction is they tell our guys that they can't work on a federal job unless they do a 4-year apprenticeship. And some of these guys already have their licenses. So we
Yeah.
have to tell them, no, like you have your journeyman license, and once you do all the testing with us, you can go out and work. But even that, our checks are fake checks. That we carry fake checks to show these guys that we make these wages, and a lot of them they think they make more than us, but after you break it down and you tell them you're paying taxes on all these fringe benefits that you do get that are part of
Yeah.
our wages, and then after that and paying your health insurance and paying your if you do retirement, I said you lose all that money. I said all this stuff comes out pre-tax, and you don't get taxed on your retirement or your benefits. So I said really you're putting more in your pocket after the end of the day.
And that's the thing. I wouldn't even say it's an argument at this point. I find it kind of funny, but I also, I mean, I get it to a certain extent, especially if you're told a lot of different things and you simply don't know any better. Is a lot of, especially on the non-union side, they'll say, well, you have to pay to work. And yeah, we do
Yeah,
pay quarterly and working dues, but at the same time, like you just said, you're paying into health insurance, you're paying into your retirement, assuming you have that set up. If you have an HSA or HRA account, you're paying into that. All the benefits we get that our contractors are paying into for us directly, you're paying directly out of your pocket. So yeah, I might pay 3 to 5% in working dues every time I'm paid, but at the same point, that's getting me a substantial amount of money in return. So it's always
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, and we show them that that's one of the first things we do is they ask. That's usually the first question is how much do you have to pay to be in the union? I say, well, you pay your working dues and your assessments, and I said it for us it's close. It's like 49, and then your 5%. I said so when you break it down for them and you show them the numbers, and then these guys are like, oh, well, that's not what they told me it was. They told me you have to pay half your check. I said, no, it's not, man. It's not. That's a big one. And then just people think that union workers are lazy, right? They got
Yeah.
a bad rap, and I tell them, no, these guys are just. I said they plan their work and they do it a little different, and I said we get stuff done pretty quick, and a lot of these guys are really smart. The education aspect is the biggest difference too. Is these
Yeah.
guys come in and they get trained, and even our newer guys that organize in, they have access to training, and that's a big thing that the non-union doesn't want them to have for some reason. They hold these guys and tell them you don't need that. You just go to work. So
And it's funny you mentioned that because when I started out non-union, my first about 2.5 to 3 weeks, I was being trained, which I didn't find out until after the fact. The people training me were they're actually high school students that were there working because it was either their uncle or dad was on. I don't fully remember. They were related to one of the higher ups on the job site, and they were the two training me. They were like juniors going into their senior year of high school, and yeah, that was my training for nearly my first month working non-union, making bare bones minimum minimum
Yeah.
money with no benefits. So
Yeah, we
it's
had one guy, he
it's
just
interesting.
organized in, and the biggest part was we went down to the JTC and told him you have access to this, and if you come in and you want to get better at some of these, we have people you can give them a call and set up some time, and you can work on these big vendors. You can work on some stuff you maybe it's okay that you don't know. You can learn. Like there's
Yeah,
people, our members will teach you, or you can come to the school and get some more training. And that's one of the biggest things that we get with non-union guys is for them to actually be able to control their career and to get the training that they want to do, right? Not because they're going to be on a job and have to get it. They generally want to be better electricians. So
that's awesome, and that's how it should be.
yeah,
New Mexico has a mix of urban work, rural work, and tribal land projects, which, in my opinion, is kind of pretty cool. What
yeah.
unique challenges and opportunities does that create for organizing efforts in Local 611?
It's definitely it's a little tough sometimes. The main city is Albuquerque. That's our biggest city, and a lot of work is out of there or near that area. But some of these jobs you have to travel 2-3 hours. We have Los Alamos National Labs, which is one of our better contracts in the. Actually, I think it's one of the better ones in the Southwest. And it's about a 2 hour drive from Albuquerque.
Nice.
So there's getting to work, getting people out there. Um, when we organize, we actually come up with plans and kind of look at what areas we need to hit, and it's definitely mobilization. We have to get kind of how people are going to get there, where they're going to
Yeah,
stay, and then we go down there, and there are parts of the state that there's no union, there's no, it's just a small company, small contractor, and we got to go down there and talk to them and kind of get them to start off with the union. So.
that's pretty cool. Um, you've gone from the apprentice to journeyman route, and now you're an organizer. What made you want to step into organizing, and what's been the most rewarding moment you've had so far helping someone make the switch into the union?
Um, it's definitely a change, right? Because, like I said, being a third generation and coming through, everybody thinks, oh, you know what's going on, you know this, and uh, my family let me kind of do my own thing, right? Like find my own
Yeah,
way. It wasn't. I never said, oh, this is my dad, this is that, right? So I worked for everything to get to where I was, and then
yeah,
my dad kind of worked in the hall for a short time. He was a rep for a little bit, and he's still on his tools. We've worked
that's
together quite a
awesome.
bit. So he's always told me you should always definitely work at the hall. If you get the chance, you should try it and at least understand it's not the best job. People think it's this glorious job, and you're going to
Yeah,
yeah, and you make all this money, but really, uh, we just we get our straight time hours, and we're not out here. I was making more on my tools than I do now. So
yeah,
doing this, it's to make a difference. And I remember when they were looking for organizers, and they're gonna actually ask me if I wanted to interview as an organizer. That's something I was interested in because everything that's been going on with our local growing and stuff like that led me to kind of rethink the way I think, right? Like I said,
yeah.
going through and being union your whole life and the way things are, and even my dad said you'll see things different as you get older, and you always think it's black and white when you're younger going through the apprenticeship and when you're new, and then now it's gray. There's a lot of gray areas where
Yep.
you don't really you got to have an open mind. The way we've done things forever, you're not going to continue to grow your local, and if your local doesn't keep growing, it gets stagnant and it dies, right? So that was one of the things we have a CW CE program, and I know I started getting involved with that. We used to have the IJ program, and it changed to CCW um, a while back, and there's some issues that I do see with that, and there's some good things and some things I think we can fix because the
Yeah.
apprenticeship isn't for everybody, and not everybody.
No.
We're one of the only right or states that aren't right to work in the 7th district. There's only
Really?
like, yeah, we're surrounded by all right to work states. So, and
Wow.
then we have licensing, but our next door neighbors don't have licensing. So there's a lot of different aspects that come into to organizing here. So we have to find something that works for us. I think all locals, we can't just all do the same thing. It's good to get other ideas, but
Yeah.
we got to kind of come up with our own plan. So I got involved with that, and I ran for e-board a while back, and I got on. So just
Nice.
it grew and it
Congratulations.
grew, and I got on as an organizer, and I did not realize you think organizing is just going out and recruiting people to join the union, and
Yeah.
organizing touches every aspect of the hall, and just trying to figure things out. So um,
That's very.
it was definitely hard. I remember I was talking to guys every day. I was going to jobs. I was at
Yeah.
gas stations in the morning catching guys before the shops, and it was I was just talking to everybody. I was giving out my card, talking to anybody I could, and just one of the first guys I organized. Just I caught him. I talked to him a bunch of times, and he finally, I just lucked out, and I think he decided to leave the company he was at. They weren't. He had told me they hadn't been treating him very well, and he decided he just quit. They were trying to force him to like drive to another state and leave,
Cool.
and what happened was I started using the non-union apprentices as salts because they're applying to our program anyway. So they call us and they let us know what's going on. And I
Yeah.
had one tell me, "Hey, this guy left. Um, he's gone. I don't know where he went, but I heard he quit this morning." And I had gotten his number, so I called him right away and I said, "Hey, like I know you're gone. You don't have a job right now, but we have some open calls, and I can have you come in and you can start work tomorrow and start." And he said,
That's
"Are you
awesome.
serious?" I said, "Yeah." So he came in, and he actually he got in, he signed up. He said that was really easy. I said, "No, I told you." He goes, I thought you guys were just lying. This was easy to get joined to get started." And then he came in, tested, and I remember he came up front and told the ladies up front, and he was like, "Man, he really helped me out. This really kind of changed my life."
That's
So
awesome.
after that, yeah, it's cool. It's cool because you get to talk to these guys, and a lot of these guys think it's one way and they get in, and it's cool because we try to talk to them, right. We have 30, 60, 90 day programs here for our retention, where we try to keep talking to the new guys coming in, but anybody I organize, they all have my number still, so
That's
I'll shoot
awesome.
them a text, see how they're doing, stuff like that. And I haven't had anybody that was like, this was a bad idea. Everybody's been they they've they've really accepted it, really like it, and they like working with all the guys out there. So
That's
it's cool. It's a good feeling, right? To help these guys out.
And that's speaking of organizing and all like misinformation. That's one of the cool things I appreciate about what you guys are doing. I don't know if you guys are on Instagram necessarily or Facebook. I know you guys are on TikTok. That's where I encountered
Yeah,
the page. Just having some sort of social media presence at the moment, especially for organizing efforts at bare minimum, in my opinion, that can go a long way. You can get information or correct information out. You can obviously talk to people. Um, and I think that's something as a collective whole the IBEW needs to, I guess, in my opinion, work on is getting all the locals online in some capacity and I guess doing their part. Because at the end of the day, whether you agree with it, disagree with it, even the older generation, almost everyone has a smartphone of some sort. And
yeah,
whether it's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, they're going to be on one of the, I guarantee, one of those platforms at some part of the day. And that's where your target audience is going to be, especially as we get into the younger generation. So that's pretty cool
yeah,
that you guys are on there and you guys are active on it, which is also a big thing. So that's awesome.
100%. Yeah, our TikTok is actually pretty new. So we've had social media, and we weren't really using it a lot. So organizing department decided to kind of get in there, and
Yeah,
yeah, our old TikTok, we couldn't get a hold of it, so we just started a new one. We started posting more videos. We're on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook. So
that's awesome.
yeah, we're trying to get more and more active. We're actually working on like doing interviews, stuff like that. So,
That's awesome.
um, yeah, it definitely hits the younger guys.
Yes,
It does a bunch of things. So I didn't realize how far uh, the social media actually got to people.
yeah,
We did a class at a membership development, and they were using. There's some locals that are doing well with social media, so we decided to give it a shot and just using hashtags and everything going on. You don't realize that like non-union people just get on there and your video might come across their feed and they start looking into it, and we just keep
It's
getting more and more people. It grows and grows.
it's cool
So
because even if it doesn't directly affect, in my case, like the Columbus, Ohio area, or in your case, Albuquerque, New Mexico, your video could be solved from. Like I've had video or people from Alaska, for instance, message me that are working non-union for whatever trade. So your reach is, I mean, it's infinite reach. And if you
yeah,
can convert one person to go from non-union to union, I mean, at the end of the day, we're all organizers. Um,
yep,
so it does its job, and I mean, for the most part, social media is free. So
yeah, yeah,
hate
and
it
it's
or
good
love it, it's
because
there.
yeah, our younger guys, I help out renew a little bit. I'm their point of contact, and they have a pretty decent renew here. They've been getting it restarted and working hard
That's
on it,
awesome.
but these guys like to use like Discord and stuff like that. So we run the renew stuff. They have their pages, and they're like,
Yeah,
well, nobody uses this, but like some people use Facebook, some people. So if you use all it's hard, but if you tie them all together, you can get your message out, and your members get to see it, right? One of the big
yep,
things is even though we're out organizing, if we see our members out, we try to stop, drop off some stickers. We have drinks, like we
that's
talk to
awesome.
them, put some pictures up because they like to see their work too. They don't always get to show their family what they worked on, or but
That's
if it
true.
comes across the social media, it's definitely cool that they get to see themselves out in the field.
That's very true, and
Yeah.
that's important.
Yeah, and at our outside apprenticeship, Swellcat, we have a 7th district Swellcat apprenticeship here, um, and they're very good on their social media. So it's pretty easy. We tag them, they tag us. Like
That's
it's a
awesome.
good little partnership. We're working with our JTC to get better with their social media so that we can just kind of keep putting info out there so we get more and more apprentices. We have all these kids coming straight out of high school trying to get in the apprenticeship. So it's
Yeah,
working.
that's awesome. And yeah, being I guess working with other locals or individuals, I mean, it goes a long way. And even if a video you put out gets three, four, five, 10 views, it doesn't matter about the views. It's all about the quality. And then at the end of the day, as long as if it can impact one person, we've done our job. In my opinion, that's something
Yep.
I've always said since I've started on social media. So that's pretty cool.
Nice.
Um, for electricians in New Mexico and the surrounding region who are on the fence about organizing in, what would you tell them about the long term impact the IBEW has had on your career, your family, and your future?
I think one of the biggest ones is I got in when I was 18. Um, I had my daughter when I was 18, and I was able to raise her, send her to college. I
That's
mean, we
awesome.
got um, my insurance covered so much stuff. Having not to pay for that,
That's
and just
big.
yeah, it's big. And I have 4 kids now. I got a 20-year-old, a 17-year-old, I have a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old,
Oh, wow.
and yeah. So they're all spread out, and they're all taken care of, right? And
Yeah.
and eventually I'll get to retire, and that's a big thing because I started putting into my retirement. And some people are like, well, you've been putting since you're 18. And really, if as long as you start by, you can get in when you're 30. I mean, anything into your retirement's good, right? We have some
Yep.
people that get in, and I'm like, it doesn't matter how old you are, you're going to be able to put into your retirement. You can put more into your retirement if you want, and that's a big thing. Is eventually we want to be able to stop working and be comfortable, right? So
Yep.
that's one of the big ones. But I think one of the biggest is that you control your own career in the IBW. You're not. I tell our apprentices and our the kids I talk to out there that are non-union apprentices or helpers, or how they kind of tell those guys, and I'm like, if
Yeah.
you get dropped from one of these, out here we have the IEC and the ABC programs,
Hmm.
and I'm like, if your company doesn't sponsor you, like you're the company's apprentice, right? You're not your own apprentice. Here we're IBW 611 apprentices. I tell them you're a 611 apprentice. If you get laid off, something happens, you go out to another company in 611. You control your career. You can be as good as you want. You don't. Somebody else isn't controlling it for you. And a lot of these guys going through the non-union apprenticeships don't realize that they have the same say because they're a member. So when we come to these meetings, those apprentices have says. They don't have a say in the non-union. So tell them like ABC, if you get fired, and or your company closes the door, you either have to start a whole new apprenticeship with IEC, or you can pay $20,000 in student fees and all this to try and put yourself through there, right? And I mean, when I tell them the only thing we really pay for is books, and most of the time we get that covered because our political team and our apprenticeship and stuff, they do a really good job about um, getting grants and stuff like that. New
That's
Mexico has a
awesome.
lot of grants and stuff, so really they're not paying for anything. They just got to go to school and go to work, and it all happens for them, right? It's hard. It's not an easy process, but it's worth it at the end.
Yeah, I mean, most things in life that are hard at some point are worth it in the end, and most things that are easy at the beginning usually aren't worth it at the end.
Yeah,
So it's a catch 22. Um, that's all I got for you, though. I greatly appreciate you taking the time to do the interview. To be honest, before we started, I didn't realize I was under the impression that New Mexico was a right to work state. So hearing that it wasn't was actually pretty interesting. 'Cause I
yeah.
know Texas is somewhere. I don't know. I mean, I know Texas is down there. I don't know if you guys neighbor. Does New Mexico neighbor Texas?
Yeah, so we're right in between Texas and Arizona.
Arizona.
So
Okay.
we're right there. Like I said, everybody's right to work around us. So we're the only blue ones right there in the middle. So it's
That's interesting.
definitely a challenge when we go to 7th District and talk with our colleagues and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's a
I
little
uh,
different for us. So
I was just talking to I think he's an organizer. I'm almost 95% sure he's an organizer out of a local 520 in San Angelo. Um,
okay,
but I guess right now there's a thing going on with it's kind of like a trade schools there maybe. Regardless, they're trying to reduce down the amount of time to get your journeyman's license. So they're doing these accelerated trade school programs instead of like a 4 year apprenticeship and a year and a half without being on a job site. You can get your certificate or journeyman license from the way I interpreted it. So it's
yeah,
interesting what they're doing in right to or not or yeah right to work states. So
it's wild because we even have some issues out here. So we get there's basically three main apprenticeships for electrical for the inside. On the outside, we have our swell cat, and they handle all their stuff, and they do a really good job. That's a good program. That school's beautiful. But on the inside, if you don't go through one of these programs to get OJT, even the colleges are starting to offer. We have a community college here. We have small trade schools that are here, and they have these kids paying 20,000, 40,000 for a certificate, and you can't work with a certificate. Like,
no.
you can go get into an apprenticeship and be an apprentice, but without your 8,000 OJT, you can't get your journeyman. You can get a job and then go to these programs and hopefully and pass petition to pass. But yeah, it's a shame because we get these kids that come out and they're excited because they worked hard for these certificates. They paid a lot of money, and we tell them you can't even. We've had the kids that gone through the community college. Um, the whole thing got their certificates, and they can't pass the entrance exam for our apprenticeship, and they paid all this money for nothing, right? So, and we work with them. Like I said, we have different ways to get in, but
Yeah,
yeah, it's a shame these guys they put in all this work for nothing. So
that's interesting. Yeah, that's yeah. I think it's one of those things in the next 10, 20 years we're going to see those commercials coming out saying if you went to so and so institution, you're entitled to like all your money back. Um,
yeah, yeah,
it's
that's what we're hoping will happen because we've had kids drop out halfway through those schools and try to come in, and they're like, "Do you think I can get my financial aid back? Do you think I?" And I said, "I don't
no,
know, man. I don't deal with that part. Like, I would definitely try or talk to a lawyer because I don't. I think you got scammed. Like, they tell you can work, and I mean, you can get a job as an apprentice if that company's hiring apprentices, but
might as well start
really,
there to begin with.
yeah, you might as well just gone there. Like, maybe you get a little more help, but I don't think it helped out that much. So
No. Well, yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to do the interview.